plus of growing kind food. You can namely any food can grow here.
Now I'm still and every day I'm just planning behind me, rousing behind me the planning.
For thousands of years, Papua New Guinean families have relied on the land for survival. Food gardens remain the primary source of food and income for most households. Farmers rely on predictable wet and dry seasons to guide planting and harvesting. Today, extreme weather patterns intensified by climate change are being felt more than ever before. Food gardens are under increasing threat as climate risk creep into every single garden. In the islands region, rugged terrains, steep slopes, and cooler climates make food gardens especially vulnerable during prolonged rainfall, drought, and frost events.
Yield of all these crops during this rainy time will be poor.
Farmers like Betty Higgins and many others in Simbu province are witnessing firsthand the devastating impacts on their crops.
Balbanians will affect Balbanians a lot big time because they'll get a disease called down mildew, and Balbanians they will have very poor yield in the regions like where they're growing. And potato too, same. So climate change is, not so good.
Over the past decade, the country has experienced increasingly heavy rainfall, leading to flooding and landslides. There's also been an increase in pests and diseases affecting crops. As a result, many farmers are seeing a significant decline in the harvest. Traditional crops, especially sweet potato, the country's staple food for generations, are becoming harder to grow.
Start lo 5 years kamantab start lo making this changes wo come up. Past time go at the go down no sem kauko em go big pla lik mi pla tu mi pla yusim na kai kampa then mi pla marat na staff kamantab kauko em ol meri blo mi pla planning ol planning ol isla kauko ya ol planning ol isla sam la kauko ya ol tumuna sa planning lo kauko ya ol isla kauko ya ol planning kauko em no karim na isla kauko ya ol scabies wo lo lim na only lili binatan or snake will work like na finishing with la kauku.
Kaukum la planimem big plat stredem karimton. Rainem groundem stago sana kaukuem sting ogata. Toite kaukuem stabing say lo groundem blasa rausim na kaige. Inno kari tribe la yan kari lik mas. Tama.
Experts report up to a 60% decline in sweet potato yields in some parts of the country. This is due to pest diseases, unfavorable climate conditions, and poor farming practices. Dr. Nelson Simbiken, director of the National Agriculture Research Institute, or NARI, says sweet potato is among the most affected crops due to its central role in the diet and its vulnerability to extreme weather conditions.
Sweet potato is highly vulnerable to unavailability of moisture. Once the moisture is gone, cocoa dies out, the yield is low. And other important tubers like taro and yam are also vulnerable to moisture fluctuations. And these we have discovered in our research. We've done tons of research for the last 10 years under the climate change resilient projects that we were supported by EU.
The impacts of climate change were first strongly felt during the 1997 to 1998 El Niño, followed by the 2015 to 2016 El Nino. During these periods, millions of people, especially in rural communities, were affected as food gardens were destroyed, leading to widespread food shortages. Today, more than 80% of Papua New Guinea's population depends on subsistence farming for food and income, supporting basic needs such as healthcare and education. Yet, this majority continues to bear the brunt of climate change, despite contributing very little to global greenhouse gas emissions. Dr. Simbiken notes that women and children are the most affected.
Food availability affects the nutritional quality, and the nutrition is now one key factor that is affecting childbirth. It's affecting the child health. That child is not growing well, not being developed well, intellectual drops because of the loss of nutritious food that is affected by the climate change.
Despite the challenges, farmers are adapting.
I lose a lot of soil coming down. So I tell my workers, bar it, go across. Don't run it downhill, because downhill, everything will run off. All the nutrients in the ground will run off. And then we won't be able to, our next crop won't be good, because all the goodness is gone. So, and also, we must not depend on chemicals too much. Fertilizer and also, we must try and use organic compost now, to try and saving soil. Because all the nutrients in the soil gets depleted, you can't grow anything.
Every garden tells a story of resilience. Farmers are applying simple traditional methods such as building drainage channels to prevent flooding, mulching to retain soil moisture, mixed cropping to ensure food security if one crop fails, and shifting cultivation to restore soil nutrients. While these practices have proven effective over generations, increasingly unpredictable weather patterns are outpacing local efforts. Dr. Simbiken explains that NARI is working to integrate traditional knowledge with climate-smart technologies to build more resilient farming systems.
Climate-resilient technologies, including drought and forest-tolerant crop varieties. We've got some varieties that can adapt, like sweet potato can adapt to drought. Integrated farming systems, which we introduce animals and into the system, and fish. And improve post-harvest techniques, meaning that processing techniques have to be improved so that you can preserve the food longer, and then you can use at a later time. Capacity building and extension. We train extension officers and in a facet called Trainer of Trainers, farming training sessions, and establish provincial demand resource centers to decentralize knowledge and material dissemination. Seed supply and support system. NARI is actively involved in multiplication and distribution of clean, resilient planting materials and strengthening local seed systems through custodian farmer networks.
Reaching rural communities remains a major challenge due to the country's rugged geography and limited access to roads and telecommunication services. Senior meteorologist Benjamin Malai says many farmers lack access to reliable climate information, making it difficult to decide what to plant and when.
Our farmers in Papua New Guinea, they are scattered throughout where communication is very limited. Now, we can issue warnings, messages at National Weather Service. The question is, do those messages, do those warnings, do they get to the intended recipients? Now, recipients by our people depends very much on their access to communication. That is through mobile phone, radio, newspapers, TV. The next question is, do they have access to those? I would say no. more than 50% of Papua New Guineans, they don't have access to communications. So that's our real challenge at the National Water Service.
Dr. Simbiken warns that if climate change continues unchecked, Papua New Guinea risks losing its agrobiodiversity, increasing dependence on external aid, and facing rising migration and social stress.
If it's not supported, the future is one of increasing food security, insecurity, loss of agrobiodiversity, and potential social instability, because people are now hungry. Unchecked climate change will lead to systemic and systematic crop failure. More frequent and severe droughts and frost will lead to collapse of the sweet potato-based farming system in Simbu and rest of the Highlands provinces, which is currently a foundation of the Highlands diet. So the increased vulnerability now holds the household forced to rely on less nutritious, more expensive imported foods that is now currently exacerbating the malnutrition and poverty levels in our country.
For local farmers, the stakes are high. Climate change is not only threatening food security, but also a way of life. A culture deeply rooted in the land now faces an uncertain future.